Hello and welcome to Ideas with Impact podcast. Today I'm joined by Dr. Stanisław Burzyński, a physician, a researcher whose outstanding work has challenged conventional thinking and inspired a very different conversation around the future of cancer care. Panie Doktor, welcome to the show. I'm super happy to have you here.
It's my pleasure. I am happy to be here with you.
Thank you. Thank you. So your story begins with a very scientific conviction that naturally occurring peptides might play a role in cancer biology. So what first led you to believe you were seeing something important that others were overlooking?
At that time, when I made the discovery, I was still a medical student. But this was the last year of my studies to become a doctor of medicine. And I discovered new peptides in blood of people who were normal individuals. But these peptides were missing or they were deficient in patients who have cancer. So this was the first link between what I discovered and cancer. There were a lot of these peptides which nobody knew before. The total number was 119 different peptides which I discovered in normal blood. Of course, they existed before, but nobody knew about it. So I published this, I began studying this, but initially the only connection with cancer was that in patients who have advanced cancer, they were deficient. So we thought that perhaps they have something to do with fighting cancer, but this was only a speculation. So I graduated from medical university and I obtained another doctorate degree in biochemistry. And then finally, I was able to expand my research when I came to the United States, which was in the fall of 1970. I was very lucky because I received a research position at Baylor College of Medicine in Houston. And this university was at the top of the news because 2 Nobel Prizes in medicine has been given to doctors who were working at Baylor College of Medicine. And it happened that one of them was of Polish origin, but he lived in the United States. So basically, across the corridor, I have my neighbors in the building who were receiving Nobel Prize for peptides. So this was a great opportunity because I could share what I have with the other people. And also, after these doctors moved from Baylor College to different universities, I was able to acquire the scientific equipment. So this really helped me a great deal. Initially, when I came, I was just trying to learn English and trying to adjust to a different situation in the country, which is not very difficult, but certainly it requires some effort. And finally, after my 3 months at Baylor College, there was an announcement by President Richard Nixon that he is proclaiming the war on cancer. And he asked various researchers to go for the grant because he had new funding which he was ready to give to fight cancer. He promised to win with cancer in about 5 years, which seems to be very difficult. Anyway, that time I received my credentials in the United States, recognized my medical and PhD degrees. So I was able to practice medicine, and I had a choice either to practice medicine or really move forward with the research. I decided to do the research, and I decided to file application for grant under President Nixon war on cancer. And I was very surprised that I received the grant. Not only that, I was nominated to be principal investigator in the grant, which was covering two large institutions, Baylor College of Medicine and MD Anderson Cancer Center. So part of the research was done at MD Anderson Cancer Center, where I was dealing with the greatest scientists in the world. And part of this was at Baylor College, which was directly supervised by me. But I was responsible for the entire project. So this helped us a lot to expand our research. So we did further work on these peptides. We identified the structure of some of them. And what was very important, at MD Anderson Cancer Center, the scientists did studies on cancer, human cancer in the petri dishes, and they found without any doubt that we have very good activity against cancer for some of these peptides. And what is important is that the activity was only against cancer cells, but normal cells were not harmed. This was the first time which they were able to find such phenomenon, because so far chemotherapy was destroying both cancer and normal cells. But here we got something which was getting rid of cancer and different types of cancer, but was not really hurting normal cells. So this was very exciting. So we followed next with animal testing, and we found that we don't have any special toxicity in the animals, and also we found cancer effect in the animals. The tumors, highly malignant tumors in the animals, were disappearing. So this happens over 5 years when I received grant money from President Nixon war on cancer. And finally, after 5 years, what was promised by President Nixon, I made announcement of our discovery at the large cancer convention in Anaheim, California, which was attended by 19,000 scientists. My presentation was selected as one of the most important. And finally, I learned from press that the scientists at Baylor College of Medicine found peptides which can get rid of cancer without damaging normal cells. Suddenly, we were pushed to the front line of cancer research, which again, at the beginning was great because I received a lot of congratulations, a lot of support. But as usual in such discoveries, this was short-lasting. And then what began is a long time of harassment and fighting in any possible way with medical establishment.
Yeah, I remember.
Which wanted to really its research.
Sorry, go ahead.
So finally we came to the end of it. So for the last almost 10 years, we didn't have much fight.
Yeah.
So basically, at this time, we completed our 40 years investigation, which were based on numerous clinical trials done under FDA control. There were phase 2 clinical trials. Phase 2 clinical trials are designed to find if there is anti-cancer activity in human, and also to determine what should be maximum tolerated dose of the medication. We did numerous such clinical trials. And finally, we came to conclusion after 40 years of clinical research that we can cure hundreds of patients. And cure especially in advanced cancer, like brain tumors, means patients who is surviving over 12 years from diagnosis and is cancer-free. We have over 100 such cases in FDA-controlled clinical trials. Nobody has it. Nobody was able to cure this type of brain tumors. We are talking about close to 60 different types of brain tumors, and this is based on about 1,300 patients who were treated in clinical trials. And the patients who are surviving, this over 100 of patients who are surviving over 12 to over 40 years. Obviously, you can talk to them. There's no secret about it. They got rid of the deadly cancer first time in medical history. There's no doubt about it. They were diagnosed by some of the best institutions in the country. We didn't diagnose what they had. They came to us already diagnosed from Mayo Clinic, from Sloan Kettering, from National Cancer Institute. We have great diagnosis for these people. So there's no doubt what they had. They have horrible brain tumors that everybody's dying for it. But we are able to cure it. And right now, we are going for FDA approval for marketing. Hopefully, FDA will allow us to have.
So, how did your early scientific training shape the way you approach cancer so differently from the mainstream model?
Well, certainly when I discovered these peptides, we didn't know exactly what they were doing. This was something new, so it took a number of years to find out what kind of activity they have. So finally, in the year of 1986, I published the article which describes our theory how to treat cancer. And this was based on information processing of information which leads to cancer. Cancer can be classified as the disease of information processing, which means patient's body receives wrong information how to develop cells, and this information, which is generated by the system of mutated genes, is causing him to develop malignant cells. So the source of the problem is not just the tumor which has been treated, but what is causing the tumor. And what is causing the tumors are numerous abnormal or mutated genes. How many of them? In some highly malignant brain tumors, there is over 600 of them. In some other cancers, like regular breast cancer, there may be 300, 400 different genes which are abnormal. These genes usually were not inherited from the parents, but they developed during patient's life. It took years to develop the system of these genes, but finally, when these genes were established in patient's body, they feed information to patient how to make cancer cells. They need to be removed. If you don't remove these genes from patient's body, then the patient will die from cancer. So, what about the standard of care treatment? Standard of care treatment is based on the discovery which was done by a medical doctor who was born in Poland, which was occupied then by Germany. He was of Polish origin, but Germany obviously appropriated his name and started this. His name was Dr. Rudolf Virchow, and he was born in what is Pomerania today, which is part of Poland, which is on the Baltic coast. Germany decided to change his name to Virchow, so he is known in the history as Rudolf Virchow. And he introduced his theory in 1845, long time ago, about 170 years ago. And his theory was that cancer should be diagnosed under microscope by looking at the tissue removed from patient's tumor. Then he assigned the name to cancer. And then from this moment, the standard of care is treating the name of cancer. They assume that every patient is pretty much the same, and they treat the name of cancer. And if you are talking about advanced cancer, every patient is dead from cancer on the standard of care, because the standard of care does not take into consideration that every patient is different and every patient has different combination of mutated genes which are causing cancer. What needs to be treated are genes which are causing cancer, but not the name of the cancer. The name of cancer will not solve the problem, and it's not. But all of the doctors are doing this with great success for them and misery for patients, because patients suffer from adverse reactions and are dying from cancer. With advanced cancer, nobody survives, okay? Because they don't remove the genes which are causing cancer. But we do. We can remove the genes which are causing cancer because anti-neoplastons, the medications which are introduced, have activity on about 600 different mutated genes in cancer. So this means that by using only our treatment, we can cure a number of different cancers. But for the remaining cancer, where there are genes for which we don't have activity, we can add new medications which were developed to work on the genes. They are not chemotherapies, they are gene-targeted therapies, and they work for specific genes. But they are not able to get rid of cancer because they typically work on single genes or small group of genes, but not on 600 or 300 genes which the patients have. But we can have such activity, and we can cure numerous patients with various types of cancer. Initially, we concentrated on brain tumors, but also we have data on regular cancer like breast cancer, lung cancer, colon cancer, you name it. And we have patients who are also surviving with such type of cancer for over 40 years now. Okay, so this means that that definitely cured. So that's where we are, but it's obvious that the treatment may help many patients, but it's not able to solve the problem for every patient because there are numerous genes which can cause mutation and problem in cancer patient. The number of these mutated genes is estimated for 30 million. So practically every patient may have different combination of mutated genes. But this can be identified. The very good laboratory testing, which can tell us which genes are causing cancer in individual patient. Such tests are covered by insurance. The patient does not need to pay for it in the United States, and the results are typically ready in about 10 days. And that's what we do. We determine which genes are causing cancer in individual patient, and we treat these genes. And we try to get rid of these genes as well as the tumors. If we get rid of the tumors and the genes which are causing them, the patient is cured. And if the patient will survive over 12 years in advanced cancer, then it meets the definition of cure. It takes time, of course, to establish if the patient is cured, but we already have over 40 years experience in our clinical trials.
Yeah.
Then we can follow up this patient for many years, and we do. And we present this in numerous scientific publications. And now we are going to report this to FDA, request that they will grant us marketing approval.
Mm-hmm.
That's where we are at this.
So why do you think the FDA were so against of what you were doing? Why were they trying to stop you from actually helping people and cure them from this absolutely horrendous disease?
Because of bribes from a large pharmaceutical company.
Mhm.
It happened that FDA knew and the National Cancer Institute knew for sure that we can cure advanced cancer back 1992, long time ago. And at the same time, I was approached by the owner of some medium-sized pharmaceutical company who begged me to help his sister-in-law who developed deadly cancer. Finally, I agreed to treat her and we got good results. And after that, he decided that he will work together with us to help approval of a medication by FDA. But he decided to steal it from us. So he just removed from the agreement. He bribed the government with $15 million, and suddenly the government, and these were the people at the top of FDA and National Cancer, decided to go together with him and support him, but not us. Okay, so obviously we are an obstacle for these people to steal it from us. So this was clear evidence of conspiracy between pharmaceutical company, National Cancer Institute, and FDA. So these three things collided together to get rid of us. Okay, but we got a number of patents, so they couldn't do it without me being active. So they decided to go ahead against me with some phony lawsuit and put me to prison for life. Okay, so then I would not be able to do it. They lost.
I
Obviously,
remember
this
that
was
case.
just
I was watching
foolish.
it on TV and I couldn't believe of what I was witnessing. It's
Yeah,
because you
yeah,
were not doing anything
yeah.
wrong. You were trying to help people who were trying to go the other way. They didn't want to get chemotherapy. They want to have an other option of helping and trying to get rid of that cancer that they had. So I remember vividly about 15 years ago or something like that. Yeah.
Oh, this was in 95.
Okay,
95, a long
95.
time ago.
Okay, I think I started following you about 20
The
years ago. Yes,
accusation,
so yeah,
right. The accusation was
yeah,
quite stupid.
yeah.
At that time, we had seen patients within the state of Texas. The patients were coming to us from all over the world, and finally they were taking medication home for their own use, which they had the right to do. FDA accused me of breaking the law because I permitted the patients to move from state of Texas to a different state. So this was the accusation. But certainly I did not have any power to keep patients for life in the state of Texas. They could do whatever they want because they were free people, okay? So finally, they lost. It was as stupid as it could be, but they put together something like over 70 different accusations for every patient who was taking medications out of state for his own use. And this would amount to something like to 70 years in prison.
Wow.
They lost, but what they did in the meantime, they were trying to steal my invention. And they put the patent on what we already patented. So this never happened before, because once you have a patent, like in the United States, you are protected
Right,
from anybody else
right.
to file the same thing, because this was National Cancer Institute which was filing patents, and FDA was involved. Then the patent office allowed them to do it, so they got over 10 different patents which were on the top of our patents.
Right.
I would be able to really fight the lawsuits against them because I was not in prison. So then finally these patents expired. But this is the proof of conspiracy between the FDA, the National Cancer Institute, and pharmaceutical company. That's what they did. And they should be punished for that because numerous people died before that.
Right.
Since they lost, they decided to bury our findings under the carpet, okay? Which now is coming to the surface because they cannot hide existence of 100 patients who are alive and free from deadly cancer, and some of them are over 40 years free from cancer. That's where we are. So this is the story of dirty work by the government, of
Right.
conspiracy. And I think in the future, probably we will see some of these guys going to prison because they have blood on their hands. They cause death of numerous
Yeah.
patients.
Yeah. Did you get any support from the scientific people around who were dealing with the cancer clinical trials and things
Well,
like that? Did
very
you get any, or
little.
did they actually push themselves away?
They put themselves away. They were afraid because they were they were threatened by the U.S. government, and if they get
Right.
involved,
That they're going to lose
they will
license and so on.
they will. So very, very few people who really were involved in cancer supported us. Okay, so we are practically alone, but there were some of them who were brave and who gave us very good support. So that's the story.
Well, I'm very happy that you are here today and you can share the story of what had happened, and you're still standing here today in your beautiful clinic that you have opened in 1976. Is that correct?
Yes, yes, that's right. Yes,
Yeah.
that's
So,
right. Well, of course, we are changing.
yeah, very, very, very exciting. Let's go back to a little bit more deeper questions regarding cancers and things like that. How do you explain what is anti-neoplastone in the simplest terms you can? And what does it do again inside the body?
Well, these are small molecules. There are small peptides and derivatives of amino acids. They exist in human body, and we felt that they form the defense system against cancer. When they are deficient, then the patient may develop cancer. So this was our initial theory. Then later on, we found that they have activity on mutated genes which are causing cancer, and this was the reason why they are active. Basically, initially, we found in laboratory experiments in which we have malignant brain tumor cells which were treated with antineoplastons, and then we are trying to find out which genes were affected by such treatment. And there were some like over 100 different mutated genes. So this was the beginning. So we knew that antineoplastons can wipe out abnormal or mutated genes which are causing cancer. How do they do it? There are various mechanisms which are involved, but in the simple terms, we can compare them to molecular switches. They turn off activity of the genes which are causing cancer. And when such genes become not active, the malignant cells will die out because they can live only if they have support of active cancer genes. Initially, we knew that the treatment with antineoplastons in laboratory tests can eliminate over 100 different mutated genes. But then we expanded this to patients' work. Ultimately, we start doing research on patients and determining the genes which are causing cancer in patients. But finally, we switched to the use of large laboratories which are much better equipped to test the genes which are causing cancer. So now the tests which we run are typical blood tests which can study 800 different cancer genes in patients' blood. These genes are released from malignant cells. And at the beginning of the treatment, we are running the test which will tell us which of these 800 genes are causing cancer in individual patient. So this is now simple because we just order collection of blood samples which were sent to the laboratory, and they do tests within about 7 to 10 days and provide us with the results. So then we know what are our enemies, which genes are causing the problem. And then we are treating these genes. We have now the list of the genes for which antineoplastons have the activity. About 600 such mutated genes. We compared our list to whatever we see in patients' blood, and we decide, is it sufficient to use only the treatment with antineoplastons, or we have to combine this with some other medications which have activity of the genes. In many patients, we use combination, which we simply prescribe the additional medication that are typically in tablets, and they are not chemotherapies. Some other patients, we are just using antineoplastons alone. In our clinical trials, for which we have hundreds of survival over 12 years to over 40 years. We did not use any other medication simply because this other medication did not exist at that time. We just used antineoplastons. But now, since we have access to the other medication, we can use them together with antineoplastons and have much better results. So that's how the treatment works. We evaluate the results in about 2 months. If the treatment works, the tumors are shrinking. In some patients are gone. We continue until we don't see any tumors by scans. And then we check the genes if they are gone. Both of genes and tumors are gone. The patient does not require treatment and can be cured. So that's how we proceed. If you find out that we are not getting rid of the tumors after a couple of months, then we look again why this happened. We do another gene testing to see if the patient developed additional mutation, and then we try to do it again. So that's how it works. The treatment is usually free from adverse reactions and is done at home. The patient is learning how to do the treatment in our clinic and then continues at home. So that's how this is done.
And do they have to see you on a regular basis? I think you said every 3 months or so, just to make sure nothing.
Well, really, we have cooperation with local doctors. So they're seen by the local doctors and they can do scans at home and send us the results. If we are satisfied that they are responding, they don't need to come to us until at the end of the treatment. So it's very easy for them.
Oh man, I am so happy to hear this, that there's, the possibilities or this other way of treating this cancer than, like I said earlier, the chemotherapy. Because again, I think we are so aware that chemotherapy works great, but I think a lot of people who are on chemotherapy at the end will subside to the disease itself, no matter what. And I know because through my own experience in my own family and friends, right away, people that chose to be on that, I'd say within a year, 6 months to a year, they have passed. So if something
Well,
like this would be available, I think people perhaps would have been still be here.
well, obviously, what we are trying to do is to get rid what is causing cancer. And no other treatment is trying to do it, okay? There are, of course, attempts to use these new medications, which are gene-targeted therapy, to work on some of these genes which are causing cancer, but these are single genes or small group of genes. They are not able to remove all of the genes which are causing cancer, but we can. We can simply run another blood test after the treatment is completed, and we see that the genes which are causing cancer are gone. And if they are gone, then the patient can be cured. It's nothing special about it. In medical history, it happened before when the antibiotics were introduced for the treatment of infections. Initially, they were introduced to treat the name of the disease, like to treat the wounds, to treat pneumonia, to treat urinary tract infection. But then the doctors got the idea that rather than treating the name, they should treat the germs which are causing the problem. So from this moment, they were able to conquer most of infectious diseases by treating the germs which are causing the problem, but not just the name. The name itself was irrelevant because under the same name, they may be different causes. In cancer, this is much more complex because we are not dealing with few germs. We are dealing with 100 different genes, which needs to be eliminated from patient's body. And we can prove it by running very detailed tests, which detects minute amount of genetic material in patient's blood, if it's still there, okay? But if you don't see any, we are satisfied that the patient can be cured. Well, this is going to make the breakthrough in medicine because the old treating the name of cancer is going to disappear. Who would like to use the treatment of name of cancer if the results of treatments are only palliative? The best what they can get is to extend patient life by 3 months with the best medications available. I'm talking about advanced cancer, of course. But if you can get rid of the cancer completely and the patient can live over 12 to over 40 years, that's different, okay? Even though we cannot help everybody, but still, a good portion of patients will respond and will have a happy, normal life. Some of these patients who are now surviving over 30 years, for instance, they were treated as children, and now they have their own children, and they live normal lives.
Some have
One of
grandchildren.
them has 7 children,
Wow.
lives happy life.
Wow.
There are no delayed adverse reactions from the medication. So once they recover, they go back to life, okay? And that's what we mean as cancer cure, but not devastated patients who looks like half dead because they still suffer from the effect of chemotherapy and all of these other treatments.
Yeah. My mother-in-law had a scleroderma, which is still very not known. I mean, it's a known disease. I think it's part of lupus, but it's just a different way. They weren't sure what to do with her. And here in Canada, we didn't have much of a choice. And she decided to try the chemotherapy. And unfortunately, it ended her life. So, as tragic as it was, it was an experiment
Sorry.
from what we know. Yeah, she was very young. She was 63 when she passed away. Yeah. But I hope that the work that you do, I think truly, honestly, can be spread around the world because I myself believe that this is treatable and we can really help people either
Of
understand
course.
what's going on or they can have a choice of which direction they want to go. So,
Of course, they have a choice, but they have to use the treatment in the proper way. We have to eliminate any sign of cancer, any genes which are causing cancer. If we leave some behind, it will come back. Fortunately, we have laboratory tests which are covered by insurance, which can be repeated from time to time. We are now in the process of trying to ask FDA for marketing approval of antineoplastons.
Okay.
Once this should happen, the insurance should cover this, and the patient should not be constrained because they need to spend money for the treatment. So that's what we are doing now, and hopefully we'll be successful.
Hopefully they'll be able to travel too. They won't be marooned
Yeah.
or stuck
Yeah.
to a hospital bed.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think it will be so amazing when the conventional medicine can really look at the bigger picture. You know, it's like I'm a holistic nutritionist, and for me, I'm not just very one mindset person. I think we need both, right? It's important to have these two things combined together in a way, because sometimes one thing just doesn't work. Why can we be open to, have another treatment or try something else that might work for you, right? So, yeah, it's important.
You're right, so we have to be open to various possibilities. Well, the marketing approval by FDA should be the next very important step, but this medical establishment is not going to accept it without a fight, okay? Obviously, we can still expect that they be trying to get rid of us, to undermine what we do, but ultimately the truth is going to win.
Right, right.
This always happens in medical science. It may be difficult, it may take time, but ultimately, if something has is giving much better results, it's going to be accepted.
Right.
Of course, it's very convenient for the doctors to use established treatments as simply put together the diagnosis and then use the government criteria how to treat such name of cancer, okay? Even though they know that the patient is going to die from cancer. They couldn't cure anybody with advanced cancer. So that's the problem, okay? Because everybody is different and everybody requires some personalized approach to treat the genes which are causing his problem. So that is what we know at this moment. Certainly the science is developing. We may have some new opinion in the years to come, but at this moment we are trying to identify mutated genes which are causing cancer, treat them and get rid of them, and if this happens, we have evidence that a patient can live normal life.
It's so important to give people that option. When you look at cancer, for example, today, what do you think the conventional oncology still gets complicated or incomplete, I should say, or wrong about the disease itself? Why are still they are fighting this fight?
Well, when the cancer is found in the patient, it's a quite complex situation. Many patients have early stages of cancer, like, for instance, women with single nodule in the breast, which can be removed and they can be cured, okay? So we have early form of cancer, which can be cured by standard of care. And we have advanced cancer, which is metastatic cancer, which is killing patients. It cannot be cured by the standard of care. For such cancers, there is only palliative treatment, which means improve symptoms of cancer and extend the life a little, but finally the cancer is going to win. So what we are treating, we are primarily treating terminal cancer, the cancer which does not have a chance to be cured by standard of care. If we see patients with early stages of cancer, we send them back to the doctors who are treating them because they can be cured by simple surgery. And that's what happened, okay? But we are concentrating on terminal cancer. Terminal cancer means the type of cancer which can kill patients within 6 months. So that's where we can use our treatment because there is a new law, and we are using Texas state law, which is called the Right to Try law. This law permits terminal cancer patients to use the treatment which is still called investigational. And our treatment is still called investigational because it's not yet approved for marketing by the FDA. But once it will be approved, it will change, okay? It will become
More
established
standard.
treatment.
Right. So your clinic specifically highlights individual patient stories and long-term survivals, while critics absolutely argues that anecdotal cases cannot settle questions of deficiency. How do you think about the role of individual stories in a scientific debate? How important is it for these people to really come out and share their stories of survival?
Well, individual publishing of cases is important because it's giving the details how that it was given. But our strength is in the results of FDA-controlled clinical trials. We are talking about a large number of patients, over 1,300 of patients who had brain tumors. The diagnoses were exactly established, and these patients were treated under strict FDA supervision. FDA inspected us 19 times. They were trying to find what is wrong with us, and they couldn't do it. So these are the results of clinical trials in the large number of patients. And out of this 1,300 patients approximately, we got 323 patients who are long-term survivors. Of course, not everybody, because many patients took treatment for a very short time because they were too sick, and some of them simply did not have good results. Over 300 patients survived for exceptionally long time. So there is not anecdote about it. this is based on solid clinical trials. So that's what it is. And some of these clinical trials were randomized controlled trials done at different institutions, and they also proved the disappearance of cancer and long-term survival. Long-term survival is used to be a golden standard of the FDA. Of course, they changed it later on because in the standard of care for advanced cancer, nobody was able to have long-term survival except for our treatment. But now we are coming back to this golden standard.
Good. We like to see more of that for sure. Yeah, we need to see this more, and we really need to spread this information. I think it's very important. So,
Well, we are publishing very extensively. We have numerous publications which are available. Of course, these publications are designed for the scientists and medical doctors, but anybody can have access to.
right. So, stepping back from your own story, why do you think medicine can be so slow to investigate or adopt ideas that sit outside of the establishment model?
Well, this is something which is typical for human nature. It was described in scientific, papers why this happened. But any discovery, especially in medicine, goes through 3 stages. Stage 1 is excitement that something was done, and we went to this a long time ago. The stage 2 is a long term when the establishment is fighting the new discovery. We are coming to the end of it. And finally, there is approval of the treatment. So this is the stage 3. And then the people who are fighting this are saying, well, we were saying that this is a very important treatment. They forget about that they were fighting this. They lie about it, and they become supported. They're saying, we are supporting this, okay? This always happens in any medical discovery. The problem is that the period of the fight is usually such a long time that most of the doctors are not able to survive this. Most of the doctors who came up with discovery are usually dead before this happens, okay? But I started as medical student, so we have a long time when antineoplastons were discovered, and that when we produced the results, of course, they should be approved back in 1990s because the government had already evidence that they can cure cancer.
Right.
But because of the intrigues facilitated by pharmaceutical companies and bad people in government, that's what happened, okay? In the government, we don't have some good people, we have good and we have bad,
Right.
okay?
Right.
And bad people frequently prevailing, and if they have a lot of power, they can slow down anything or get rid of any discovery.
Yeah. Well, we need more good people in the system itself to
Absolutely.
again spread this
I
information
think,
and not slow the process, because I think every human's life is an important life in itself,
of course,
and families suffer at the end. So having these options, again, I will say it for myself, it's absolutely crucial. If I had the choice to go back and help my mother-in-law, absolutely would. Because at this time, you would do anything in your power
sure.
to have someone survive. So yeah,
But the government is not the same. It's changing
right.
from bad to good and vice versa. So at this moment, there are a number of good people in the government, especially in FDA and Department of Health, Human Services. And we can hope that they will understand that we have valuable treatment and they will agree to make it available. So this is the thing which is changing all the time. So hopefully we see much better situation now.
What distinguishes healthy skepticism from closed-mindedness?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
What distinguishes healthy skepticism from being closed-minded?
I see that. The skeptics are important because obviously they can find what is wrong in anything, any discovery. There are things which could be wrong, but the type of skeptics which are attacking us are evil people. They lie, they produce false information, and they neglect the fact that we have clear-cut scientific evidence that we can cure cancer. So that this happens, okay? So they are motivated by some hate of people who are of Polish origin, for instance, and they would like to destroy it, okay? But they're not going to win. They're going to lose, okay? So
Well, I
that's what
think
happens.
personally right now there is a huge shift happening in humanity. So witnessing this shift and seeing people are truly looking for other ways to help themselves in whichever way it is, either it's mindset, either it's self-development, either it's health-related stuff. It's absolutely amazing to see right now. So,
Yeah,
all the stuff that you have done in the last 40, 50 years, all the suffering that you had to witness and you had to go through and come out where you are today to really shine and speak about it truthfully. It's remarkable. And I'm very honored again to speak to you about this because, even though I myself have been, I wouldn't say I was silenced, but I was silent because I was afraid of speaking up. Tell the truth about, if you not, let's say for me as a holistic nutritionist, if you don't eat certain way, there is a chance for you to develop certain disease. Doesn't matter what it is. So I think for me, food was very important. Now I can speak freely. I can share information with others where people can relate, they understand more. We're back like 20 years ago, it was not known. You were called the granola or you were called the tree huggers, right? Kind of way. So it's really, really absolutely amazing to see this movement happening right now where everybody is looking at it a different way.
really, people are becoming aware that they need to select the proper diet, proper food, because it can protect them from the disease, including cancer. Okay, so this is very important. However, it's quite complex because there are so many active ingredients in the food.
Yes.
It is estimated for something like over 600,000 active ingredients in the food which can influence cancer. So this takes time really to find out what they exactly do and how they can be used. But
Yeah,
certainly this is very important.
right.
But this, of course, is very important, especially at the beginning stages of cancer and prevention of cancer. When we have patients who are terminal, the situation is different because certainly these patients are devastated by the disease. They lost a lot of weight. We need to be quite careful what we can give them to eat to make sure that they will win with cancer.
Right.
And that's type of patients whom we see. Okay. Well, certainly, if when our treatment will be FDA approved, then it can be used for people who are less advanced. But at this moment, that's the type of patients whom we see.
Yes, it's little baby steps forward. Yeah. So if you were speaking to young physicians or researchers today, what would you tell them about pursuing an unconventional idea without losing scientific discipline?
Well, certainly they need to learn first what is the established science, okay? Because without it, they cannot really criticize this. So that's the basic things, okay? They need to excel in regular science in the first place. And if they get some revolutionary idea, then they should receive support, okay? They should from the universities to develop this. I received such support when I was a student. I received some limited support in Poland, which was at that time a communist country. I came to the point that I couldn't move any further because of lack of financial resources which were given for my research. But fortunately, I came to the United States and the new door opened. Okay, so then I could explore what I was thinking about before. Okay, so I think the new doctors, they should not be afraid to come up with new idea, and they can discuss this with their colleagues and professors and find out if this makes sense, and if it does, proceed with this.
Very good. Thank you so much for sharing that. I believe too that having that backbone of really, not being afraid to finding out more about it, right? Like you said earlier, talking to the profs, talking to colleagues, really getting all the information and just honestly not being afraid. Because if we do, then
Sure.
that's where things are not going to proceed. And you having that courage to keep moving forward, even though you've been, hit in the head so many times, it's absolutely, so it's first of all privileged to see you still here, standing here and giving this kind of information to others and telling them that, you know what, have the courage, don't be afraid, do it, follow what's really in your heart.
I have to admit that I have a lot of support from my teachers, my professors. Starting even from high school, I had a great chemistry teacher who was one of the best in the country and gave me full access to chemical laboratories so I can experiment on my own, whatever I would like to do. Then in the university, I also had very good support from the chairman of the department, who, as a matter of fact, was educated before by Marie Curie Skłodowska. So she was a very important person. And then I have some other important people, some of them the most important scientists in Poland who helped me and who promoted what I had. And when I came to the United States, I also have very good support from Baylor College of Medicine, from professors in the university. So all of this was a great time. But when finally I came on my own and I presented a new theory, then the fight started, not with the people who initially were giving me support, but the strangers, the crooks, okay, who were trying to really find something which was not true.
Yeah.
That's what happens,
Yeah.
okay? Unfortunately, the truth is going to win finally.
100%.
Okay.
The truth
100%.
will prevail.
Yes, I 100% agree. So, looking back over the full arc of your career, what do you believe was your most important contribution to medicine?
Well, I think the theory how to treat cancer, okay, to the theory which may cause paradigm shift from the treatment of name of cancer established under microscope to the treatment of causes of cancer, okay? So that's completely different thing, okay? Because under the name of cancer, there are numerous different causes of cancer. So we need to go to the source. We need to treat what is causing the problem. Nothing new about it. This was recommended by some great philosophers like Aristotle, for instance, to treat the cause of the problem, but not the name of the problem. But this was forgotten because it's easy to simply put the name and say everybody is the same and treat everybody the same way, and then everybody dies from cancer anyway, okay, who has advanced cancer.
We are so different. Everybody is so different. And the approach for
Sure.
one fits all doesn't fit anymore. Sorry, can you repeat that?
Certainly, laboratory tests are helping to make such distinction. What is causing the problem? Okay, it's not difficult. It's covered by insurance. Taking the blood sample, send it to laboratory, and then in a week or 10 days, you can have the answer.
Right. So do you suggest for anybody can do the test, or is it someone that they have discovered that they have cancer and then they can go in and do the test?
Well, first, we need to establish what stage of cancer is this, okay? If this is early stage of cancer, such genomic testing is usually not performed. This is performed for advanced cancer. So if the patient has advanced cancer, then he should have such testing because this would tell us what is causing the problem. And this should be done at the very beginning because chemotherapy is not going to affect positively the genes which are causing cancer. It may cause mutation of additional genes, okay? So before the doctors will consider chemotherapy, they should find out if there's another better way of treating cancer. If there is, they should use this first.
Thank you for sharing that. Is there anything
You're welcome.
you would do differently if you could go back and start from the beginning?
Well, certainly there are a number of different things, but I was trying to do most of the things on my own. Basically, after a short period of time when I received grants from President Nixon War on Cancer, I was making money from various businesses and trying to use this money to promote my research. So this was self-supported research, which is seldom done because the doctors are usually asking the government for help. They're getting grants. If they don't do it, okay? But I did it the old way. I was making money by various businesses and using this money to do the research, okay? So because of this, I had independence. I did not really to rely and going according to instructions of those who give the money because I was making money from my operation. So that's what is different. And this was the proper way of doing this. But perhaps I should be more aggressive in doing this because obviously we are suffering frequently difficulties to survive because we are surviving on the money which we generated from our own business. So it's not easy.
Yeah, we always definitely need some sort of support, financial support, right? So having that grant that you received definitely was a bonus in a way.
Yeah,
Open up the door for
that's,
you to
that's
do all the studying and have your own labs, independent labs and everything, which is great.
This was very important at the proper time because the total amount of money I received was about $300,000, which again, it was sufficient to proceed with what is called basic research, the
Okay.
research in the laboratory.
Right.
But the total cost of bringing medication to FDA approval was estimated for about $1.5 billion
Wow.
when I started. So this was a tremendous amount of money. And certainly for me to decide to do it on my own, it was a
Yeah.
crazy idea. Because obviously, how can you come up with this amount of money?
All I will
Okay,
say,
but
Dr.
say
Burzynski,
for
that you are Polish and you're stubborn because Polish people can be very stubborn
right, you're
in
right.
a good way, in a positive way. Yes. Yes.
That's right. That's right.
So for the people that are listening right now and who hear your story, and basically wonder how to think clearly when medicine and hope and controversy and the basically overall human suffering all collide together. What would you want them to understand?
Well, first of all, many doctors are good people and they would like to have the right things to do for the patients. I think the initial step is to find out from the doctors what they're suffering from. If this is early stage of cancer, they don't need to come to us, okay, because it can be treated by the other doctors successfully. If this is advanced cancer, we'd be glad to help them, and we have free information. Our staff will collect the information from the patient, the doctors will review it, and we tell them if we can help them or not, okay? And then for patients whom we can help, we can invite them to come to Houston to start the treatment, and after that they can continue at home.
So what questions should they ask first before deciding?
Well, first
Yeah.
of all, what is the cancer diagnosis? They should be diagnosed with cancer. Because if this is something else, then we are not treating such patients at this time. If this is diagnosis of cancer, is this advanced cancer? This is early stage. If this is advanced cancer, they should contact us. And then we find out what we can do to help.
Dr. Burzynski, this has been such a powerful and absolutely meaningful conversation to me personally. As I said before, I've been a huge fan for the past 20 years, watching you going through the hard times, the up and downs, and really still standing here today to really truly do what you love to do, is to help other people, and knowing that this is not the end, there's answers, and they can really rely on other options that are out there. So I truly do appreciate that.
Well, it's my pleasure. And I hope that this can save somebody's life.
Yeah, same here. So before we close, I always like to ask my guest a final question. And the final question is that what if one idea you'd like to leave the listeners with, what would make a meaningful impact in another person's life?
Well, what I would like to understand for the people who are listening is that even if they have diagnosis of cancer, they should not despair. They should learn more about it, what it is, okay? Because they're learning about what they got. It's very important, okay? And then make the decision what they would like to do. If this is advanced cancer, then unfortunately the standard of care treatment can only do some limited things. If this is advanced cancer, our treatment may be the one which can save their life, okay? Not for everybody, but it may be worth to try. So if they advise us, we will tell them what is necessary to do, and we can follow up.
I will definitely make sure that all the information from your clinic is on the bottom of my show notes, so that way when people are searching and are interested or have a family member who's going through some hard time, that, again, there's other options and they can definitely reach out.
Okay, thank you very much. It's my pleasure.
Dr. Stanisław Burzyński, dziękuję bardzo.
It's pleasure on my side. Thank you.